Slytherin!
It's not a witch or wizard who went bad, it wasn't in.
The four founders of Hogwarts appeared to all have four completely different ways of how they wanted to run the school. They had different opinions, and the most different of them appeared to be Salazar Slytherin, who had the strong opinion that muggle-born wizards and witches should not be allowed to attend Hogwarts. When we finally hear about the story in Chamber of Secrets, it seems completely absurd. The Gryffindors especially seem very offended by it and are shocked that this person was once a founder. But what we might be forgetting is that Salazar Slytherin was considered to be Godric Gryffindor's best friend up until his departure. And in this video, I'm here to let you know that Salazar Slytherin has been getting the short stick from all of us. In fact, he was a lot less radical than we think, and he may have been one of the most level-headed founders at Hogwarts. So in this video, we're going to explore the Chamber of Secrets and why Salazar Slytherin wasn't that wrong. Okay, I know what you guys immediately thought of. How can I try, even attempt to defend Slytherin? A man who literally put a monster in the basement of the school for the purpose of killing muggleborns. And I'll get there, but first I want to talk about the wizarding climate that Slytherin was talking about. Hogwarts was founded roughly in the year 990 AD. This being very long ago, and even preceding what we would consider to be the Middle Ages, was a very different time in the world. Most notably, this time was prior to the enforcement and creation of the Statute of Secrecy, which wouldn't be in effect for hundreds of years later. At this point in time, Muggles were aware that witches and wizards were among them, and they didn't tend to react that well to it. We know in Harry Potter canon, the founding of Hogwarts happened prior to the birth of Merlin, and therefore they were still at a time where magic was accepted by Muggles and they still kind of coexist peacefully. Despite that, the founders deliberately found a school that was as far away from any Muggle community as they could and put in many magical reinforcements to avoid the school from being detected by Muggles. But the overall sentiment towards witches and wizards would only get worse over the next couple centuries. In fact, we find out in the beginning of Prisoner of Azkaban that by the 14th century, witches and wizards were regularly found, rounded up, and burned alive by Muggles. Salazar Slytherin isn't looking that bad anymore. His warning that Muggles would one day rise up and try to kill them turned out to be a completely accurate prophecy. And based off the sheer amount of protection that was placed on Hogwarts, it seems that the other founders didn't think that that was too far away from being a possibility. But despite this, Salazar Slytherin never outright banned Muggleborns from coming to the school. And in fact, he allowed Muggles to come to the school while the founders were running the school together, and only eventually split off at a time that we're not sure about. But, as we know from the story of Chamber of Secrets, before he left, he created a secret chamber in the school that could be opened by his heir. Once the chamber was opened, a horror would be unleashed that we later find out is a basilisk that would wander through the school and purge from it any person who was not worthy to study magic. And so, hopefully, if you're on board with me so far, you're being willing to acknowledge that he wasn't completely wrong in suspecting that there was a danger from bringing Muggles into the school, or rather, Muggle-born students. But you're probably sitting there saying, yeah, but having a monster in the castle that's going to kill all of them for being there, especially since these are students who are just children between the ages of 11 and 17, seems a bit extreme. Which leads to point number 2, that Salazar Slytherin didn't intend on killing anyone with the basilisk. Confused? That's reasonable. Having a giant killing monster that kills people by looking at them and has fangs with deadly poison seems a very difficult way to not kill anyone. Firstly, we have to look at the fact that the chamber was sealed and not meant to be opened like a time bomb that would release randomly and purge all muggleborns from the school, but instead a failsafe that when an heir of Slytherin decided it was time to use this one failsafe to protect the school, they would be able to do it. But then, in order to realize that the basilisk was not intended to actually kill anyone, we have to look at the attacks. Throughout Chamber of Secrets, it might be construed as the biggest convenience of the entire book that no one is killed in the entire events of the novel. Despite Mrs. Norris, Justin Fletchley, Hermione Granger, and Penelope Clearwater all being attacked by the basilisk, as well as Colin Creevey, not a single one of them dies. And at first glance, we may be willing to chalk this up to dumb luck. Until we dig closer into a piece of text we find in the chapter A Very Secret Diary. We found out earlier in the book that last time the Chamber of Secrets was opened, there was also a series of attacks resulting in a death. However, it's not until we actually get to this chapter that we find out conclusively that there were several attacks before Moaning Myrtle died. In the attacks that took place in Harry's year, we can write off the basilisk not killing the victims as a result of Harry stepping in immediately after all the attacks, being led there by the voice of the basilisk. But 50 years ago, there would be no other Parselmouth at Hogwarts, which means no one would arrive on the scene immediately after the attacks to stop Riddle from finishing his job. And from everything that we can see about the way the basilisk operates, in the sense that he seems pretty convinced that he wants to kill people.
It's moving. I think it's going to kill.
It seems that there's something external stopping him from actually going through with it. At some point, we have to realize this is not a coincidence, and the basilisk is deliberately petrifying people and moving on. In fact, even the one death that is caused by the basilisk seems to come as a shock to everyone, including, as we find out in this chapter, Tom Riddle. Tom was hoping to spend the summer at Hogwarts, but upon the death of the student, realizes that will no longer be possible. So we have to ask, is there a possibility that Tom didn't expect the basilisk to kill Moaning Myrtle? And for me, the answer is quite obviously yes. The reason why we find out in Chamber of Secrets that no one is actually being killed by the basilisk stare is that every one of them has not looked at the basilisk directly. And Myrtle shouldn't have either, because Moaning Myrtle wears glasses. It's very important that she wears glasses, and it's mentioned very specifically as the reason she was in the bathroom at the time. So if Tom Riddle was intending to attack her, he would expect her to be wearing her glasses at the time she was attacked, thereby stopping her from seeing the basilisk directly, and thereby only being petrified along with everyone else. But what he didn't anticipate was at the very time that Moaning Myrtle was in the bathroom, she was upset because Olive Hornby had been teasing her about her glasses, resulting her taking them off, and at the time the basilisk showed up, was not wearing them. And that's why Tom Riddle's first kill and the basilisk's first kill was a complete accident. So there you have it, guys. The purpose of the Chamber of Secrets was to scare off muggleborns from coming to school and not actually kill anyone who came to Hogwarts. So, what do you guys think? Do you think that Moaning Myrtle's death was an accident? Do you think that Slytherin may have been an okay guy? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!